Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to this afternoon's webinar with Social Annex and Demandware. We're standing by for a few minutes because not everyone has arrived yet, so just wanted to give you the heads up. Once we've got everyone online, the broadcast will commence. Right, we're going to give it a few more minutes. I see people joining. And if you're happy, shall we commence?
Sounds good.
Okay. I think in the process we will probably have a few people joining, but we don't want to keep you under suspense any longer. Let me welcome you again to this afternoon's chat session. My name is Iris Sweeney. I'm the Partner Marketing Manager for EMEA here at Demandware. And this afternoon we have Al Lilani with us from Social Annex, who will be taking us through the session. But I just wanted to really give you a very quick overview of who Demandware is and what we do. Because what happens if you work with Demandware, who are we, what do? We provide you with a total solution for your commerce, and technology is really at the heart of our solution. Our platform is called the Demandware Commerce Cloud, and it's a purely cloud-based platform with a multi-tenant architecture that's been proven to be very scalable, reliable, and secure. And that's proved by hundreds of clients that have their website running on our platform. So if you can move to the next slide, Elle, if you don't mind. But apart from technology, Demandware will support their clients with additional services. So you will get a wide spectrum of supporting services, which includes our retail practice team. Our retail practice team is a team of retail experts who work with the clients to ensure that they're being at their most successful a retailer can possibly be. both in terms of using our platform and making good strategic and tactical decisions. Beyond retail practice, clients also receive an ongoing operational support, including our operations team, which is constantly monitoring our clients' deployment and looking for ways to help our clients to avoid problems. And in addition to that, our clients would get access to the Demandware community, from which they can draw any kind of fresh ideas, draw on insights and inspirations that complement their own and help them keep up with consumer expectations and keep ahead of the competition, really. Clients can meet and interact at our Exchange user conference and through our collaboration center portal in less formal setting. And that's really just, in a nutshell, a quick introduction to Demandware. And now I'd like to hand you over to El Lelani of Social Annex so that she can talk us through this afternoon session. El, take it away.
Thank you. Thank you, Iris, and thank you, everyone, for joining. It is wonderful to speak to everyone today on this topic, a topic I'm very, very passionate about. Again, I'm Al. I am the Chief Strategist and co-founder at Social Annex. I usually start off every presentation with a little bit of a background around me, so you can get a frame of reference of some of the things that I'm going to talk about and in the direction that I'm going to explain. You know, I'm the father of two wonderful daughters, very excited, 7 and 2. They make every day beautiful for me. I speak 5 languages. Not that I'm going to break into any other language. I'll stick to English today, for sure, but thought I'd just mention that anyways. Extra caffeine has a reverse effect on me, so it usually puts me to sleep, but I hope all of you guys are well caffeinated for the rest of the time today for this presentation. I started my career in technology, so a lot of references you might see towards this will break into specific technical details of how a loyalty program is structured, essentially. But then I moved into product and then into marketing and e-commerce, and then essentially sort of founded Social Annex. So the whole curve has shaped my entire thinking of how you know, commerce all works around. I'm very, very passionate about customer loyalty and customer advocacy. You know, I ran e-commerce for a company called Teleflora, which is about a 300 million you know, retailer here in the United States. And essentially during that process, we did a lot of things very, very grassroots in terms of building customer loyalty. We had over 1 million customers a year buying flowers from us. So in that sense, we spent a lot of time building grassroots loyalty and then taking some of those loyal customers and making them the advocates. And I'm hoping I can share some ideas with you today that will help you in your business as well. So let's get the shameless plug out of the way first to give you a little bit more context about who Social Annex is, so you can get an idea about how potentially some of our findings that we're going to present to you today apply within the world here. So Social Annex, in very layman's terms, we help turn browsers into buyers, buyers into loyal customers into advocates. And these advocates will drive more traffic back to you. So when people come to your commerce site, we're essentially helping these customers now make the right decisions to turn into buyers. And this is done through a set of different advocacy marketing tools, things like user-generated content, where people are on product pages and can get the right content to make the right decisions. And then we help turn those buyers into loyal customers, which is highly important. You know, spending you know, your cost per acquisition dollars or pounds on specific you know, marketing activities and not being able to retain those customers is not a good sort of marketing ploy. So how can we then turn those customers into loyal customers so they can come back and buy more often from you? And then those loyal customers into advocates. How can we get those most loyal customers to tell good things about you to their friends and family so that they can drive more additional traffic and conversion back to you. Now, today's webinar is focused very, very heavily on the aspect of customer loyalty, especially the omni-channel aspect of customer loyalty, where each channel that these customers interact with you on is very important to communicate with in a consistent manner. But let me start off with a quote of a person I'm fairly inspired by in life, Tony Robbins, who said, "The quality of your life is the quality of your relationships." And loyalty is all about relationships. It's about maintaining that trust with that customer who trusted you the first time around, and then keeping that trust with them from the time they bought from you the first time to the time they buy from you again and again and again, to the time when they can become an advocate of you to other people across all different channels that they interact with you on, whether it be online on your website, whether it be in your stores if you have any, whether it be within social media, whether it be on mobile devices or through email or through any other channel that they have a touch point with you essentially. Now, to set the baseline of how relationships are built, in general as people, there are two things that we value in relationships. The first thing is the quality of the relationship. We all want to feel communicated to. We all want to feel valued. We all want to feel appreciated. And at the same time, we want to make sure that our partner, whoever we're working with or related to, has the commitment over time to maintain that quality of the relationship. But when that translates over to brands, especially B2C brands, where you have millions of customers, hundreds of thousands of customers to work with, maintaining that level of consistency, of quality, and of commitment is very, very difficult. Each customer feeling that this brand communicates to me, this brand treats me like a valued customer and appreciates me, is very difficult. We communicate with our customers in different ways. We have our customer service team to answer their questions. We send them emails letting them know about our new products and promotions. We have our website. We have our storefronts. But how do we maintain that quality across all different channels so that these customers can then become loyal customers and advocates for us is a very important part of building a business. At the same time, feeling the commitment that there is a consistency in this communication is very important as well. As retailers, we have this constant urge of meeting our number. Every time there's a holiday and we have a goal and a target to meet in terms of sales, we always think about sending that one extra email to that consumer. Now that consumer has been getting, let's say, one email a week or maybe one email in 2 weeks from you, suddenly gets 2 emails that week and doesn't feel communicated to in a consistent way, feels like they were spammed, and that may not be a good idea. So how do you continue maintaining that? Now in the old days, when online wasn't around, customers had trust in brands because they had trust in people. We always knew our friendly shopkeeper around the corner that would be able to understand what we really wanted, who knew us as people, and hence was able to communicate to us in the way we want to be communicated to. But now, when it goes to a massive scale, that whole paradigm of communicating with customers has shifted into more of a sale-oriented paradigm. So a lot of times, when I mentioned that example of sending that extra email when we have to hit our target, we are also incented to sometimes give that extra discount, to extra sale, to entice that customer away from our competitor to come to us. But these discounts are a way to the bottom. The more discounts you give, the more you're training your customers to come back for another discount, and it's not helping anyone at the end of the day. It's not cultivating true brand loyalty because these customers are now being trained to wait for a discount before they come back. Now, the traditional loyalty programs we are all aware of. Airline miles, for example. We are all part of some airline, and we're all part of some airline miles program. And traditional loyalty programs were based on the idea that hey, listen, we don't want to give people discounts, but we will instead give them some sort of a system so that they can come back and buy from us again. So thereby in the 90s came the airline loyalty miles, where you buy one time, you get some miles or points, and then you buy again and you get more points or more miles. As you accumulate those miles, you're now able to use that towards the next flight. And essentially what they're doing is they're trying to retain that customer with that airline so that they feel an association with the brand and hence have some tie into the game so they can come back and buy again from that airline. When you're competing in a commodity market where the same airlines or multiple airlines fly to the same destination from the same location. And that idea, while that was good, the challenge it has now, back to our original story, is it has the commitment of giving something to you as a customer, but it lacks the quality. And the reason it lacks that quality is because there are so many loyalty points and programs that we are all participating in. This picture does it justice enough. On average, a consumer is part of 13 loyalty programs. That's a lot. And out of those 13 loyalty programs, they're really only active in 3 to 4 of them. And so in that sense, how do you sort of maintain that quality of that relationship between that first purchase and the second purchase? Back to our example of airlines, if I make that first purchase and I'm not a frequent traveler, how do you keep that relationship with me between that first purchase I made with you and that second purchase I made with you? Or how do you even connect with me before I make that first purchase? And so the question then becomes, how do we sort of then have that quality of interactions between purchases, between the brand and customers, so that a consumer truly becomes loyal to our brand, and not just because we gave them discounts, not just because we gave them points. Now, back in the day, at my days at Teleflora, the example I gave you before, where I was leading their e-commerce team, again, 300 million retailer, so pretty big at that. We had over 1 million customers every year buy from us. And the challenge there was, the purchases were fairly seasonal. These were flowers, and most people buy flowers during certain times of the year, potentially during holidays, certain events like birthdays, Valentine's Day, Mother's Day, and so on. And between those purchases, it's very difficult to get in touch with those customers because they're not looking and thinking about this brand, about us on a regular basis. But what we didn't want to do is every time there was an event in their life, we didn't want them to go out and then think about some other flower company and then compete with them on business. Again, some of the products we were selling were commodities. We were selling, 12 roses. And 12 roses can be bought anywhere. They can be bought from a grocery store. They can be bought online in, 20 different places. And so we came up with a very grassroots loyalty program. We said, let us take our, top 10,000 most loyal customers, people that have bought from us at least twice in the last 6 months. And let's see if we can try to make them even more loyal. And we defined certain objectives that we wanted to do with them so that we can achieve that true brand loyalty. First of all, we wanted to connect with them. We wanted to know who they were. We wanted to know exactly what their persona was. We then wanted to excite them about our brand. These were people that we truly cared about because they were loyal customers. So we wanted to make them feel the same way. We wanted to make them feel excited about our brand. We also wanted to communicate with them very, very regularly. We wanted to make sure that we had a consistent communication with our loyal members. Every time we had a new product or a new bouquet go out, we wanted to communicate with that customer at that point in time. We wanted to regularly engage with them. We engaged with them by creating specific programs. Every time we were releasing a new bouquet, for example, for Valentine's Day, we had a new design coming out. We wanted to engage with them and ensure they were part of the process before that product was released to get their opinion and engage with them. We wanted to reward them. We wanted to tell them how important they were. We wanted to reward them for being a loyal customer of ours. And we wanted to interact with them regularly and foster a real relationship. And these are all the adjectives that we came up with that we thought were very important in maintaining a true loyalty relationship. Now, mind you, we only did this for 10,000 customers, so it was a lot easier to manage individually because we could create a small program around sort of managing that. And one of the things that became very apparent to us that it's as important to communicate with loyal customers between purchases as it is to reward them for that purchase. So back to my example of loyalty and miles programs, you buy once, you get your miles, but you don't get anything till you buy again, and then you get miles. But what happens between that first and second purchase is highly, highly important. Maintaining that relationship, rewarding people, connecting with them, interacting with them, making them feel excited between the first and second purchase, between the second and third purchase, and so on, between purchases is highly important to maintain that relationship. And so we went a step beyond in introducing a cohesive program that essentially allows us to reward not only purchases, but other interactions that these customers do beyond that purchase, thereby growing more from just an online program into a multi-touch or a omni-channel program across all touches that the customer had with our brand. We knew between those two, between the first and the second purchase, they were opening our emails. We knew between the first and second purchases, they were coming to our social media pages and following us and listening to that. We knew they might attend certain events that we do. We knew they might go into our stores. And so these were different touch points that we had with that customer between the first and second purchase, and we wanted to maintain those touch points. So here are some examples specifically, now diving into the details from concept of how we achieved that. From an online perspective, beyond rewarding people on purchases, we rewarded people on when they created an account. Because when they created an account, we knew more about them. And when we knew more about them, we could essentially personalize the experience online to what they needed. We also reward them on signing up for our newsletters, which is highly important, again, because every time they signed up for our newsletters, we were able to communicate with them. And that was an important touch point for us beyond just rewarding them for a purchase, because now we could constantly communicate with them. Essentially, this is sort of when you expand from 10,000 to 1 million, and you now are doing a broad-based program where you want all these different touch points to be allocated. We rewarded them for writing reviews for our brand. This is essentially a form of customer advocacy. These people are becoming advocates. They like your product. They want to tell other people about it. They come, they write a review. They answer questions. If you have Q&A functionality on your site, these people can answer questions, and you want to reward them for that behavior online. So those are some examples of how to reward online. But beyond that, there's a whole new channel with social now that is available to us and needs to be interacted, needs to be accounted for as a channel that you want to reward people for. So whether they follow you on Facebook or follow you on any social media channel, like you on Facebook, pin something on Pinterest, connect with you on Twitter, tweet something about you, or retweet something that you sent out. All those are interactions that are important for you and can be rewarded. You know, your brand, when they share images and videos, now with the advent of Instagram and Pinterest, visual commerce is a new concept that has come about where people are sharing pictures and videos about your products. And that is an action that can be rewarded. Whether they share on social networks, tell their friends about you, or refer a friend that actually comes back and makes a purchase through social sort of channels, this is a action that can be rewarded as well. And so these are all essentially actions that we want to make sure are rewarded. Now, one of the things that is very important to point out, you know, it should not be to reward people for every single point without thinking about it. It is highly important that we think about the ROI. So essentially working with a system that can help you identify what all these actions are worth to you. When actually someone likes you or shares something on Pinterest or hashtags an image for you, what is that worth to you? And that is a baselining process that we do here at Social Annex, and it's an important process that you need to understand before you can start rewarding those pieces as well. And then lastly, beyond the social actions, there are other customized actions that you can reward for as well. Things like if you have a store, when they check into your store, when they have a birthday. You know, it's an important part to make people feel valued by rewarding them or connecting with them on a birthday. They feel that that you know and that you care. By rewarding them for that, you know, first-time purchase or the multi-time purchase, depending on X number of times they bought from you within the last Y number of months. That's an essential sort of part of rewarding them. Rewarding them for personalized interactions based on specific interest. Or surprise and delight. You know, we highly recommend an action that allows you to reward customers for certain things that they may not be aware they will be rewarded for. And then they get a surprise suddenly because they got rewarded for it, and they're delighted about it, and then they go tell people that they got rewarded for a certain behavior, and it promotes, you know, sort of the excitement part of it, promotes the advocacy part of it as well. And so these are some of the actions that go beyond the purchase that you want to reward for across multiple channels of social, across multiple channels of in your store if you have any, and potentially keeping it seamless on your website online, as well as your mobile site potentially, as well as through email, by giving them different ways in how they can communicate with you between those purchases. So here's an example of a brand, Olympus Cameras, that is doing this very effectively, where they're rewarding for that purchase for sure, which is the nexus of any loyalty program, but they're also rewarding for the birthday example that I gave you before, and for other on-site actions like writing product reviews or signing up to create an account, or the social actions of connecting with them on Facebook or following them on Twitter, or the customer advocacy or advocate marketing actions of referring friends. When a friend gets referred back to their site and makes a purchase, the original sharer gets some points here in this case as well. And if you see below, they introduced a new custom action. Now, Olympus is all about cameras. Cameras are all about pictures. Olympus released a new picture gallery using a visual commerce functionality that we power, and they're rewarding people for submitting pictures that they take from their Olympus camera into creating a gallery. That's a very custom action for them. But again, this is not for the purchase. It's for people using the product well, and if they use the product well, they'll become an advocate, and they'll buy more of your products. They'll get more other people to buy your products. So again, it's an indirect action that is coming from the usage of the product that is also being rewarded in this case. So here's the example of the gallery I was talking about, where now all these pictures are great pictures that people have taken from their Olympus cameras. They have been curated by an audience of picture enthusiasts, and these people are now being rewarded for spreading images and pictures taken from Olympus cameras. Here's another company called Prep Sportswear, an IR Top 500 retailer, that essentially rewards for actions beyond that first purchase. And this is, again, the Twitter actions or the Facebook actions or the email actions in this case are all part of that rewarding process, and not just for every purchase that they've made beyond the purchase again. And this is an example of how a referral purchase gets rewarded, where people can now share on Facebook and share on Twitter and share via email, and they get an additional 200 points in this case when a friend gets referred back from the share, also makes a purchase. This is an example of another company, Chaparral Motorsports, that rewards for people for writing a review. So when you go to their page and you write reviews, you receive 10 points every time your review is approved, essentially. And so that's another sort of action on the site that promotes that. Similarly, they also reward for actions here in this case for people writing answers or asking a question from that perspective. Again, user-generated content is a great form of customer advocacy. User-generated content also drives conversion on the site. It also drives additional conversion on the site. And so using a user-generated content as a lever and rewarding for those actions is highly recommended. Here's another example of a customer, Spa Week, that goes beyond the purchase action. So they have all the purchase actions that they're rewarding for. They have all the social actions they're rewarding for. They have all the on-site actions they're rewarding for. In addition, they are also rewarding for people that go into their stores or their spas, and when they check into their spas, they're being rewarded as well as when they buy and they actually use their cards within their spas, they're rewarded as well. So again, that's another sort of piece in this case where offline interactions of checking in, of buying, of participating in an event, a spa week event in this case, essentially also gets rewarded. So just as a recap of the customer loyalty program, we've talked about extensively extending that customer loyalty program to add one big channel, which is social. And that social channel has multiple different aspects, again, that we talked about, that you can reward for, whether it be sharing and referring friends and connecting on social media, whether it be using social login, which is connecting on Facebook or Google or any other social channels, whether it be writing reviews or answering questions or sharing images, as we call visual galleries, if you will, can all be participating in the program and essentially make that loyalty program stronger. Now, going beyond sort of that initial aspect of adding the social channel, how do we really sort of turn them into advocates? Now, the brand advocacy part that I mentioned before is a highly important part of loyalty. And the way we look at it is we say, hey, listen, we want to turn your browsers into buyers. These buyers now become your advocates. But your most important and your most vocal advocate, most vocal loyalists will now turn into real advocates that will spread more content about you. These people will write reviews in the previous example, share with their friends. And the business impact is heavy. If you actually track what impact this has in terms of revenue, it increases, obviously, the ROI. It increases the average order value, because when a friend gets referred back, for example, through through a person that has bought from you, the average order value, just an anecdotal number, the average order value of friends is close to 20% higher than the original average order value on the site. And so these referred purchases increase average order value. They increase repeat purchase. A person that refers another person is a lot more likely to buy again themselves. So by converting them into advocates, you're making them even more loyal with your brand. It obviously increases social activity. And so essentially these different forms of advocacy have a big impact on your bottom line. 92% of consumers trust recommendations from their friends. It doesn't matter what you say about your brand. It matters what your end customers say about your brand. So it's an important part to cultivate that. And so we see a huge impact in terms of increasing. Here's some stats in what we see, the impact of brand advocacy from terms of revenue lift to a loyalty program, essentially, in terms of AOV, in terms of purchase frequency, in terms of social activity, if you will. And essentially these actions now should all work within sort of your framework across all channels. So we talked a little bit about the social channel. Now let's move on to the in-store and mobile channels, because those are channels that are additional channels that your customers participate and connect with you on. So starting with mobile, that part is very simple. I mean, for most of us now, mobile is over 50% of our traffic and getting close to 30% of our revenue. And if it is that the case, then every interaction that a consumer does on your site should be available on your mobile device. Now, when we talk about mobile, it goes into many different directions, because mobile can be a mobile device like a phone, which is a smaller device, or a tablet, and those experiences can sometimes differ. Mobile can also be an interaction through a mobile web experience or a mobile app experience. When your mobile app, if you have one, should interact and work the same way as your mobile web, as your end sort of website. So when you start and think about a loyalty program, you think about interactions that consumers do, those interactions of writing a review or signing up for an account or any other online action that you're rewarding should now be available on your mobile device, should now be available in your app if you have one as well. But beyond that, for mobile, you can reward for additional actions that are very mobile specific. For example, if you have an app, you can reward people for referring other people to download the app. If you have your mobile website, you want people to use the mobile website more often, you can reward people for doing specific actions on mobile or specific contests that you run that are specific to mobile, if you will. So from a mobile sort of perspective, we kind of have that part has to be covered within the omni-channel experience. Now, going into sort of more the in-store loyalty perspective here as well. This is a very, very sort of deep part of interacting with customers. As many retailers of you have stores, these are some tidbits of information over the next few slides that I'll give you in rolling out a true omni-channel program, and how and what you should think about in terms of rolling out that omni-channel program across your stores when you do roll it out to your stores. Here's some sort of aspects to go into, starting with program recruitment. An important part of recruiting people to your program is when they walk into your program, or walk into your store essentially, and making them aware that the program exists. And how do we drive that awareness, not just when they walk into a store, but also when they visit you online, that this sort of program is now available across all channels. So a big component of loyalty programs is making sure that you communicate effectively, that when people walk into a store that they can participate and be part of the program, but then they can use those points or rewards that they earn from the program potentially online, potentially on mobile, on any other channel essentially. So having a true omni-channel that works across all channels, when they earn points or earn rewards or levels or perks, depending on what your loyalty program gives out, these can now be attested and make sure that the communication of that program is across all channels, as well as the usage of that program is across all channels. The people can sign up now on your website, in your app, in your store, and it doesn't matter where they sign up, they're still part of your program. And as you roll out your program, you have to plan very accordingly. We highly recommend running a pilot program, especially in your stores, especially when you have more than 20 stores, that you run a pilot program with 5 to 10 stores as a starting point for a couple of months. This ensures that you can train your in-store associates properly. You can create a training schedule and a process. You can write down an FAQs of all the questions that consumers may have and address those properly, and essentially fine-tune the aspects of the program and then extend it to all your other stores after the pilot program is done. We also sort of help and support through this process of the ways and how you can answer questions, whether it's phone support when people call into your customer support line and ask about how many points they have, or how to, if they have a problem in their point schedule or that sort of it, and how to answer those questions, how to communicate with them on a regular basis in terms of monthly account reviews, if you will. And then lastly, the points accrual or redemption. And I say points here, but it could be points, it could be perks, it could be rewards. Different rewards programs are different. When you're a high-end retailer, you probably don't want to give points. It may be different perks. So again, these things are very interchangeable, if you will, from that perspective. But whatever reward you're giving your audience, whether it be tangible points rewards or perks or experiences or access to certain things that they might get, it's important that it accrues via all channels again. When they go out and check out on your POS in store or online or via the app if you have one, or your mobile device, they should be able to accrue it, and then they should be able to redeem it across all channels as well. So let's dive a little bit deeper into the aspect of program awareness and recruitment. This is specifically making people aware that you're launching a pilot program or a real program across your stores. And in this case, in your stores, helping sort of create the right signage is very important in terms of essentially showing how a loyalty program is launched, and making people aware when they walk into a store. And in the next few slides, I'll give you some examples of how that signage is created. And it's important that within the store recruiting program, you actually train your store associates to mention the loyalty program every time that a consumer checks out. So when they are checking out and they're buying something at the register, that you mentioned that, hey, would you like to be part of our loyalty program? Existing customer recruitment through existing marketing channels is highly important. When you launch a program, you want to essentially start a campaign that helps to recruit your existing loyal customers into the program. This is done a lot of times using email marketing, using drip marketing. So typically you'll see when you start a loyalty program, you might collect a list of your top loyal customers, let's say your top 10,000 customers or top 50,000 customers, and give them a special bonus to join the program, for example, and run a drip campaign to make them aware of this program and the benefits of the program, essentially, through email as well as social, if you will, for people. The people that are following you on social are your best customers. Now, back to the topic of signage within the store. Here are some different ways in how signage can be used. You can have a hanging ceiling signage from your store sort of appearing that promotes and talks about the program. Definitely gift cards or loyalty cards essentially is an option. When something is bought, QR codes can be potentially placed on the product that people can scan, so if they didn't sign up for the program before, they can sign up afterwards. Tabletop signs, especially at the register. When people are at the register, they can see that they can participate in the program, is an important aspect. Signage on the floor across different products. Some retailers may not want to give points or rewards or perks away for every product, but you might want to give it for certain products that you carry, especially if they're branded products that belong to you, where you have a higher margin, and you want to place certain signage around those products specifically to promote that, as well as window signage. As people walk in, or if people are part of the program, or people are walking by, they should be able to see that window signage. So here's just some examples of how strategically these different signages have been placed in a real store, so people can see as they walk around the store, as they go to the register, as they essentially are browsing these different products, they can see that they are going to be rewarded and going to be part of that loyalty member club, if you will. So once people are now aware of the program, the next part is to recruit them within the program. And here are some different ways in how you can recruit people within the program. The first sort of part of recruitment within the program is essentially telling people at the point of store entry. When people enter into your store, telling them that you've launched a new program or you've got a program running. Beacon alerts, if you have specific apps, you can integrate beacon alerts when they are near your store to alert them about the program so that they are aware that the program exists. Digital displays within the store, kiosks essentially, where they can essentially participate and participate in the program. Announcements in stores, your store associates can make announcements regularly, especially at the time of peak traffic, to announce the program. Especially signing up customers in the aisle or signing up customers at checkout is an example that we talked about before. And so the sign-up process should be very simple. It should be as simple as, essentially giving an email address and creating an account. Now, loyalty cards or physical cards for loyalty is a technique that has been used for some time, and that's okay. But realize as this becomes more and more available to people, as people participate in more and more programs, they may not want to carry your key card or your loyalty card everywhere they go. So making it seamless in an online world by using either an email address or maybe potentially a phone number, but most likely an email address essentially, that allows them to easily participate in the program is the best way of starting the program. And so offer them an incentive for signing up for the program. We also talked about existing customer recruitment, so now let's dive a little bit deeper into this. I recommended before that a marketing campaign to drive existing customers to sign up is a good way to get the program energized. If you have your top 50,000 customers that you already know about, let's start a drip marketing campaign where you reward them for participating and becoming a loyal member, and you give them extra points or extra rewards to start off. And this can be done through emails, but it can also be done through SMS and mobile if you have that available for your customers, and definitely through your social media sites. to allow people to seamlessly participate in the program and be recruited into the program as you launch the program. And then the redemption of the program can be in multiple ways as well. The redemption can be in store, either through a gift card or a coupon code or a loyalty code of some sort, if you will. The redemption can be online, definitely. Online could be on your mobile device or app or even a desktop, essentially allowing people to then redeem that, as well as third-party redemptions. If you sell a product that people don't buy very often, an example of that is a customer of ours that puts, that allows people to sell their cars online. People only sell cars once every few years, so if you want to reward them for selling cars, essentially, you want to reward them with things they can use. If you give them a discount towards selling their next car, that won't happen for a few years. So in this case, if you have products that people don't buy very often, but you still want to create an engagement program around that aspect, you want to reward them with third-party gift cards potentially. Now, one of the things that is a little different for manufacturers than it is for retailers, and manufacturers being specific brands. If you are your own brand, and you might be a retailer and you might be selling your own branded products, then you can go an extra mile further, essentially. Now, most times as manufacturers, we sell through our own branded shops, but we may also be selling through many third-party retailers. The example I gave you for Olympus cameras before, most of their actual purchases happen through third-party retailers. They have an online site, which is where they have the loyalty program, but they also have third-party retailers, which is where over 95% of their business happens. And in that case, you can essentially allow consumers to then get rewarded for no matter where they buy from. So we talked about channels being social. We talked about channels being online. We talked about channels being your own store. But if you're a manufacturer and you have your own store, but you may also sell through third-party stores, you want to give the customers the ability to then get rewarded for buying your products no matter where they bought it from, even if they bought it from a third-party retailer. And this gives you the ability to know more about your customers. And so when they go and buy a product from a third-party retailer and you reward them, you now know more about your customers. Now, the challenge as manufacturers have today is if over 90% of your purchases are happening through third-party retailers, you don't know about those purchases. Obviously, the third-party retailer is not going to share that with you. And so you can then allow these consumers to scan their receipts, to email those receipts, to have automated ways and scan their QR codes or barcodes, or put in a code within the packaging. There are many, many different ways that we can, do this, essentially allowing those customers that buy from a third-party retailer to then also become part of your loyalty program as well. So this is the app that Olympus allows for customers that buy from third-party dealers to then also become part of the loyalty program. And then lastly, in terms of all these aspects of loyalty, it's very, very important to track the outcome of the program. And there are some aspects within the tracking of the program that we highly recommend. The first aspect of this is tracking all the actions that you are allowing people to do. So if creating accounts was an action, then track how many people created that account. If newsletter signups was an action, track how many people created those newsletters, or connected with you on Facebook, or followed you on Twitter, or wrote reviews, or referred their friends. All these actions are important, and because the reason behind that is you can then A/B test the rewards behind those actions. So if you can increase the reward in a specific action, if you want to get more reviews for a new set of products, you can give double points on writing reviews for products that don't have reviews, for example, thereby getting a higher participation there. And by tracking those actions, you can then allow for that to happen. The second aspect of that is tracking enrollment. You obviously want more and more people to enroll in your program, and so tracking that member enrollment is an important part of loyalty as well. In tracking how many members are enrolling in a program, how the program is growing, but what's even more important beyond enrollment is tracking how many people are participating in the program. if they, an example I mentioned before, most people are part of over 13 loyalty programs, but most people only really actively participate in 3 to 4. And participation is defined as actually doing an activity with you that got rewarded within at least the last 3 months or 90 days, if you will. So if you can drive up that participation rate, that's even more important. That's the second lever. And then the third lever is the activity rate. So you enroll people in the program, you make them more, they make them participate more, and then you increase their activity rate so that they participate more within the 3 months as well, and not just one time, but multiple touch points in that activity, if you will, to increase the activity rate. You obviously want to track all kinds of program metrics around that. So if your program is points-based, which is what this example is about, you want to track how many points were awarded. You want to track how many points were redeemed. You want to track how many points have expired, or points, how many points are being earned and how quickly they're being earned, what the redemption rate is, what the expiration rate is, how many average points per member. So these are all just the different types of metrics you want to track. If you have a perks-based program, you want to track what kinds of perks are being used. If you have a levels-based program where you have level 1, a gold tier or a silver tier or a bronze tier, then you want to track the different levels and tiers as well, if you will, from that perspective. You want to track the interactions that people are having with you. When people interact with you via emails, when they're opening your loyalty emails or your triggered emails, if you will, or your transactional emails, you want to track those email interactions. And most importantly, you want to track ROI. You want to track, is this increasing what a loyalty program should increase? Meaning, is this increasing your revenue? Is this increasing your average order value for members? Because members should have a higher average order value than your basic average order value. And most importantly, is this increasing your repeat customers? You want to increase your lifetime value, and the two ways of doing that is by increasing the repeat customers, by increasing the average order value, and also by increasing conversion, because people will convert better when they're part of the loyalty program. So just as a quick recap as we get towards the end of the program, the first part of this presentation, we talked a lot about extending the loyalty program beyond the purchase. Connect with your customers across all different touch points of social, of mobile, of in-store, across touch points. Consider every single channel, online, mobile, social, in-store, email, as part of your program. The second part, we covered a lot about increasing advocacy. Don't just focus on making people loyal and buy more. Focus them on becoming more advocates, because this will drive in even more revenue from your loyalty channel by having further advocacy. And the examples we gave there was allowing people to refer their friends, allowing people to share images via social, create galleries, allowing them to write reviews and answer questions and create user-generated content. And then lastly, across all channels of online and as well as stores, track everything. Track every metric around the program to make it successful, and essentially track and optimize the interaction with the program. So again, the quality of the relationships is the quality of your brand. You can increase that quality with a very successful omni-channel loyalty program. And I wish you all the best as you start with that journey. It is a very, very interesting and long journey to increase that touch point, increase the relationship of your customers with your brand. And if there are any questions, I'll be happy to take it at this time. But thank you everyone for joining. Thank you everyone for participating in this webinar.
Right, thank you for that, Al. We're opening the session now up for questions. If you have any questions, can you please type them in the question box so that we can share with the rest of the group? Okay, so I'll I've got something. So I've got the first question. So if I want to decide to set up a loyalty program, what would be the main things I would need to be aware of?
I think that's a very broad question. So let me answer that in a little bit, specific of what you should think about before you start thinking about a loyalty program. The aspects of your brand, essentially, the first question to ask is, do you currently have a loyal customer base that potentially can be energized in some way? And so if you are essentially a product that people buy more often, you are a very perfect candidate for a loyalty program. That's the first part to consider. The second part to consider a lot of times, which is a no-brainer, is if you have some sort of a commodity product that people can buy from multiple places. A loyalty program is a great way, in the airline miles example I gave you before, of commodity products where you can differentiate from the competition. And the third one example where I gave you of Olympus cameras, when you have a branded product specifically, that it's a great way to re-energize your brand with the loyalty program. So the first aspect of starting with the program is to figure out if you have a loyal set of members and what are these different touch points that you want to communicate with that customer on, and then figure out how you want to communicate with them on and what kind of rewards you want to give them, what are the different rewards you can afford to give them within the program, and then sort of create an action plan of how we are actually going to increase true loyalty through that program. So it's a pretty broad question, and happy to actually take that offline, because there's a whole series of steps that we go through in defining whether A, you're the right target for a loyalty program, B, if you are a right target, how best to start thinking about it, and C, how to dive and define the actual details of your program. How many points can you give out? What rewards should you give? How should you communicate? All of these are very, very intricate details, some of which I covered today, but we have a whole process around it and a white paper around it that I can share if people email me afterwards at al@socialannex.com.
Okay, that's excellent. So once I've considered all these points, what would be the typical uplift or the return that I could expect from a loyalty program?
That's a very good question. From a loyalty program is usually when we talk about channels as retailers and manufacturers, we talk about acquisition, conversion, retention. One of the things I like to say broadly before we go into specifics is, as retailers, we spend a lot of time on acquisition channels like paid search and social and many other sort of ways, email marketing, that we use today. We essentially spend a lot of time on acquisition. We spend a lot of time on conversion and optimizing our websites and our stores for conversion. But we spend almost no time on retention. We spend almost no time on building the relationship with our customers. Email marketing is the only other relationship that you usually have with your customers after that purchase. And so loyalty program essentially allows you to have an additional point of retention where you're not competing against other brands. And so especially when you have a loyalty program in place, we have seen results of increasing lifetime value between 20 to 70% of the lifetime value increase, which is a very, very big lifetime value increase by launching a good loyalty program. Obviously, this happens over time, so it's not a quick gap fix where you can launch something and within 2 months you will see results. It is an aspect that you launch and it grows over time. So year one, the results may be smaller, but it grows as your loyalty membership grows. It grows over years and years, and essentially now, after 2 or 3 years, you have a really strong member base that now become advocates and drive even more. So it grows slowly initially in the first few months, and as it grows bigger, it becomes exponentially faster in producing that ROI.
That's great, and I've got one straight away that ties in with this. So how would I get people actually signed up for the loyalty program? And what happens if they're signed up and got their points awarded, but after the points have been awarded, the customer returns the goods? What would be your advice on that situation?
Yeah, so the last part of the question was, what would, if they get the points and then they don't return, is that the last
They
part of the
do
question?
return. Yeah, they do return. They have the points have been awarded, and they do return the goods.
Oh, they return the goods. Yeah, okay. So I'll take the second part of the question first. We typically have a policy around, rewards where you don't actually give them the points or the reward till the actual return period has expired.
All right.
So many of have a 30 or 60-day return policy, and you don't give them the reward. You keep them on hold, so they see it, but they're not released. It's sort of like when you make your purchase of airline, in the previous example, you don't get your points till you actually fly. So same thing applies in retailers. You don't actually get your points till your return period expires, and then you get your points. So that way we take track of returns. The second thing is, if for some retailers you have an unlimited return policy or a long return policy, like over 90 days, for example, where people can return your products, then we account for that return within the program itself. So when we build the loyalty calculator for the program that allows you to determine how many points they're going to get and how many you can afford to give, we account for the returns, the X% of people are going to return in that process to allow for covering that. Beyond that, there's obviously a lot of fraud prevention techniques that we haven't gone into on today's webinar that allow for tracking if people are trying to commit fraud by returning and using the points. In terms of signups, there are many, the first part of your question around signups, there are two different ways to track that. For smaller retailers where you have a base of less than 100,000, you essentially sign everyone up. We call this an implicit loyalty program. You don't have to explicitly say, I want to be part of the program. Everyone that purchases or interacts with you becomes part of the program, and then whether they use it or not, they still get something. But the flip side of that is that you have a lot more liability, but you also have a lot more people to interact with. So that's the implicit sign up. You also have the explicit sign up where you can have the ability for people to explicitly say, I am interested in the program. Check this box and say, I want to be part of the program. So that's the explicit sign up process. So there's many ways in having that sign up process work differently as well, depending on your size, depending on your type of product, and so on.
That's excellent. I'm conscious that we're running out of time, but I've got a couple more questions coming in, and just we started a bit later, so if that's okay, I will share them with you. Because can you advise us on how long would it sort of like take to set up a loyalty program like this, and who would you advise, who is this type of program most suitable for?
Great questions, both great questions here. So in terms of the time it takes, we typically advise, depending on what channels you want to start off with. Some of our customers will start off with just the online channel and then expand into social, then expand into in-store, and so on. So this type of a phased approach usually works fairly well, but if you're an omni-channel retailer, you may not want to do that because you might want to make sure that your customers get an end-to-end experience, especially if you have stores, an end-to-end experience from day one, because if they buy and get points online and they can't redeem them in store, it may not be a good experience. So if you are an online-only retailer where you don't have an offline experience, we typically recommend you having about a 2-month process in launching a program effectively. If you are an omni-channel retailer, from concept to launch, typically we recommend about double that time, about 4 months in launching that program effectively, which allows you to not only launch the program, but also run a trial for that I mentioned before of 30 days or so for the program essentially before you launch it out to the other stores. So you start with a 5 or 10 store trial within that process. The type of products that are great, or the type of companies that are great, I think I mentioned a few examples before. If you're a commodity type product where you're competing against other retailers for the same type of product that they're selling or same product they're selling, this is a great aspect for you because now you differentiate yourself from other people, if you will. Amazon being a great example of a commodity engine, essentially where whatever you can buy on Amazon, you can potentially buy on some other retailer. But now they promote loyalty through their program. And then if you are a branded retailer, it's also a great aspect because you want to keep people with your brand. And the example I gave you before of that was Olympus cameras, of having a branded company focusing on a loyalty program as well. So it's good for both aspects. The way you launch and promote the program for a branded retailer versus a commodity product may be very different, though. So that's the answer to the questions.
Okay, so if I think this, this what you just told me sounds absolutely fantastic, but never mind. I do not have the time or the resources myself to set this up and run something like this. Can you do it?
So the question is, if you don't have the time or resources to do it, should you do it?
Yeah.
And the answer would be a no, clearly, because I mean, at the end of the day, it's a commitment. We talked about this being a commitment to your end customers, and so if you don't have the commitment to actually spend the time, really launching and optimizing the program, it won't be successful. There's no magic behind it. It does require work, especially initially, because you have to plan the program, you have to communicate around the program, you have to start recruiting for the program. So the initial part does require some work. But once the returns are phenomenally higher than any other investment you will ever make, because at the end of the day, if you keep and delight your customers, those customers will not only become loyal, but these customers will tell other people about you and drive further sort of advocacy, as we talked about. So the returns are higher than any other channel that you will get from an acquisition perspective. The cost per acquisition for new customers through the loyalty program, through advocacy, will be much lower than any other channel. But it does require the commitment for you to launch the program. Now, by using a third-party service, again, shameless plug, you can take away a lot of these efforts, because a lot of the stuff that I talked about has been productized. Yeah. When you work with someone like us, or in that sense, where it's been productized, so we can guide you the right way, so you don't make mistakes, and it severely reduces the effort in doing that, and as well as can be your efforts can be supplemented by our team, making it a lot easier for you to launch that program.
Excellent. Excellent. So I'm really aware that we're overrunning. I can see people dropping off. There was just one thing that sort of like bubbled up quite a few times. It's, can we get hold of the presentations and the recording? We will be in touch after this has all been processed, after the webinar. We've got all your email addresses if you participated, and we'll be in touch shortly. Any closing words?
No, I think that's pretty much it. Thank you, Iris, for hosting this, and thank you, everyone, for joining. This was hopefully helpful to everyone.
Same for me. Thank you very much for joining. Thank you very much for staying with us, and I hope you had a good session. I will close this session now for everyone, and thank you again.